This episode is part of Unspoken, a series of conversations about the thoughts, struggles, and feelings that many women carry but rarely feel safe enough to say out loud. This is Real Talk, Real Faith, Inside Soulful Sister Sanctuary. I am your host, Zaria Grace. This space is for grown women who love God, carry a lot on their shoulders, and are ready to live lighter. Here, we talk about why we feel the way we do and how to move with peace, clarity, and faith that feels steady. We're going to keep it real. We drop the mask and we lay it down so that God can lift it up. Take what fits, leave what doesn't, but don't ignore what hits. Now let's begin. I wonder how many women have sat in church smiling through someone else's testimony while internally wondering why their own story ended differently. And I'm sure it's not because that they weren't happy for the other person, but it was because their own heart was still hurting. That person's breakthrough became a testimony, all while your story became silence. Their testimony reminded you of the prayer that you prayed. Their breakthrough reminded you of the door that never got opened. Their healing reminds you of who you lost. And suddenly a question starts creeping in that you really don't want to admit. And it sounds like, God, what about me? Why didn't he do it for me too? Because when you've prayed and you waited and you trusted and the answer still doesn't come, it's hard not to wonder, God, are you hearing me? Did I do something wrong? Do you see me? And those are not the questions that we ask out loud. Because disappointment with God is a no-no. Like, we're prepared when other people disappoint us. But God, the very one we've spent our lives trusting, that is where things can get really confusing. Because now we're trying to make sense of feelings that we're probably feeling guilty for even having. And oftentimes the women who struggle with this aren't the women who walk away from God. They're the women who stayed, who prayed, who fasted, who continued to trust and believe. And then they found themselves asking, God, what happened? I really thought the story was going to end differently. And the people who feel this most deeply are the people who expected God the most. But listen, expectation is the birthplace of disappointment. I think a lot of us already know which one of our emotions are acceptable and which ones are not. It's okay to be grateful and patient and understanding. You be loving and kind. But as a Christian woman, to say I'm angry, oftentimes that makes people want to clutch their pearls. So instead, we just learn how to say, I'm fine. It is what it is. I'm blessed. Everything happens for a reason. And sometimes those are statements of faith. But oftentimes, they're just armor. A lot of us learned that faith meant being nice, not honest, but nice. Feeling the right thing, responding the right way. And when we couldn't do that, we just started hiding from other people and even hiding from ourselves. We may start questioning, What if my anger means that my faith isn't strong enough? What if good Christian women are not supposed to feel this way or have these angry emotions? What if God is disappointed in me? And that's the trap. And it's not because they don't know that they're hurting, but it's because they don't know that they're allowed to admit that they are angry. I think what makes anger so difficult isn't really just about the anger itself, but it's about the guilt that follows it. We're disappointed and we're ashamed about feeling disappointment. We're hurting and then we're ashamed about feeling hurt. We're angry and then we're ashamed that we're even angry. And now we're carrying two burdens, the pain itself and then the guilt that comes along with it. And when we don't know what to do with those feelings, it's easier to just try to talk ourselves out of it. At least I still have my health. At least I still have my family. At least I have a job. At least this, at least. And while gratitude is important, gratitude was never meant to become a way to just silence your feelings and your grief. They can live on the same streets. You can be grateful and grieving, thankful and heartbroken. You can trust God and still be disappointed. And that's one of the hardest truths to admit. Because disappointment feels dangerous, especially when it's directed towards God. It feels like something we're supposed to just move past quickly, to just get over it. Something you're just supposed to pray away. But many women haven't resolved it. They just stopped talking about it. But listen to this. God is not surprised by the emotions that He created. God already knows that we're angry, whether you want to admit it or not. We're not hiding from God. We're hiding from ourselves. Anger doesn't mean that your faith is weak. I don't think that anger is the opposite of faith. I think indifference is. Because angry people, they can still be engaged. They're still wrestling. They're still asking questions. They're still showing up. But the people who have completely given up, they don't wrestle. They just walk away. And maybe that's where some of us are. We're not faithless. We're just wounded. We're still believing. We're still praying. We're still showing up, but carrying disappointment that we just don't know what to do with. And when disappointment has nowhere to go, it doesn't just disappear. It settles. I've learned that the danger of buried anger isn't that you're going to stop believing. It's actually that you'll just stop talking. And as with any relationship, it's not going to survive the silent treatment. And buried anger, it doesn't just stay buried, it leaks. It will leak into your relationship. It will leak into your prayer life, in your view of God, in your view of yourself. And before long, you're not even angry anymore. You're just distant. Is that where you are today? Not angry enough to leave, not healed enough to feel close, but just distant. Maybe you're still going through the motions. You're showing up and serving and smiling, but something inside of you still just feels off. Because anger usually isn't the first emotion. Most of the time, it's just grief with nowhere to go. It's the protest of a hurting heart. It's what happened when reality collides with expectation. Sometimes the wound isn't what's happened, it's what never happened. The child we thought we'd have, the healing we thought would come, the protection we thought we'd experience, the future that didn't unfold the way that you thought it would. And maybe that's what we're really angry about. Not just what happened, but what we lost. Not just the pain, but the expectation. Maybe we're not just grieving what actually happened, but we're grieving what we thought that God was going to do. And that's why this conversation can feel so uncomfortable. Because we're not talking about a stranger. We're talking about God. The one we trusted, the one we prayed to, the one we believed would show up differently. And that's a much harder conversation. I don't think the real question is, why am I angry? But I think the question is deeper. What promises did you believe that life was going to keep? What loss are you carrying? What disappointment are you grieving? What expectation are you struggling to release? Healing rarely happens at the level of anger. Healing happens when we reach the wound behind it. The goal is not to just stop being angry, but the goal is to stop pretending that you're not. Because healing can't happen in the parts of us that we're still hiding. So maybe the most faithful prayer that some of us can pray today is simply, God, I'm angry. I'm disappointed. And I don't understand. And I don't know what to do with that. But I'm bringing it to you anyway. Because I'd rather wrestle with you than walk away from you. If this episode encouraged you, I would love for you to follow the podcast, leave a review, or share it with another woman who may need this reminder today. Now, before you go, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, and take one slow, delicious breath in and out. You have carried enough for today. God never asked you to be everything for everyone. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to say no. And you are allowed to be cared for. Strong doesn't mean silent, and burnout is not holy. Let's lay it down so that God can lift it up, and I will see you inside the sanctuary.